We often hear that resilience is about bouncing back, about dusting ourselves off and then returning to normal after life knocks us down. For those of you that grew up in the 90s, there was literally a song about it. You all know the one I'm talking about. I get knocked down, but I get up again. You're never going to keep me down. What if I told you that normal wasn't necessarily the best place for us? True resilience isn't about pretending we're unaffected or pushing through pain at any cost. It's about growth, the inner transformation that happens when we allow struggle to shape us in new, meaningful, and sustainable ways. Resilience isn't about toughness, it's about adaptability, curiosity, and courage. Resilience is what turns a setback into a stepping stone and a moment of pain into a deeper sense of purpose. You're listening to The Happiness Hack with Tim Coulson, the podcast where we use positive psychology and strength based healing to create small, meaningful ways that we can use them in everyday life to improve our happiness, health, and mental well being. Today, we're going to explore the topic of resilience and the myth of toughing it out. Somewhere along the line, resilience became synonymous with endurance, with grit your teeth and just keep going. We started celebrating survival rather than healing. We celebrated persistence more than the progress. But let's be clear, white knuckling your way through a hard time isn't resilience, it's self-protection. Now, while self-protection can be necessary in the moment, staying in this survival mode for too long comes at an immense cost, physically, emotionally, and mentally. We're going to reframe resilience. It's not about how much you can take. It's about how much you can learn, integrate, and evolve so that the next time it doesn't feel as much. The people who truly thrive through hardship don't simply push through it, they grow through it. They use pain as information. They seek meaning in what's happened and they rebuild from a place of self-understanding rather than self-criticism. You know what I'm talking about. That annoying person who, no matter what happens, always seems to land on their feet. They're using the setback as a growth process. Research in positive psychology shows us that adversity, when met with the right mindset, can actually lead to profound personal growth. People who engage with their challenges often develop a greater appreciation for life, a renewed sense of purpose, increased emotional strength, a deeper understanding of themselves and their values. This doesn't make any adversity a gift, but it does mean that a truly resilient person can find value within it, especially when we're looking inward and staying curious about how we can take small and consistent steps towards growth. One of my favorite analogies is that of the lobster. A lobster's exoskeleton is fixed. It doesn't grow with the lobster. As the lobster's body gets bigger, it literally has to shatter through its exoskeleton or it won't grow. Now, that does not sound comfortable, but that's where the resilience kicks in. That short-term pain is teaching the lobster a lesson. If I push through this, if I learn that I can move this shell just this little bit, then I'm going to be allowed to expand. As Viktor Frankl, one of the most seminal works of the 1900s, wrote, when we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. That's all about logotherapy. For those of you that don't know, Viktor Frankl was a Holocaust survivor. Within that, he found meaning. He found resilience. There's three core elements to emotional resilience. The first is awareness. It starts with understanding your inner landscape. People who are resilient are also self-aware. They know what they feel, why they're feeling it, and how these emotions influence their actions. They pause just long enough to notice the situation and then choose to respond rather than react. Awareness gives us that power. When we ignore what's happening inside, our emotions are going to build up until they overflow. But when we meet our thoughts and feelings with curiosity, with understanding and awareness, they become teachers instead of threats. The next concept is flexibility. Here we want to adapt rather than break. The most resilient systems, whether they're in nature, business, or psychology, are inherently flexible. They bend, adjust, and evolve. Rigid thinking locks us into resistance. Think about a tree in a storm. The stauncher it stands, the more likely it is to break. If it bends with the storm winds, it allows itself the flexibility to withstand the small time frame and then grow with new adaptation. This is resistance and flexibility. It's not about ignoring the pain. It's moving with it rather than against it. The final aspect that we want to focus on is connection, the strength we can find together, because resilience is not a solo act. Whether we like it or not, humans are wired for connection. When we regulate our emotions with other people, our nervous system calms. Well, it does if the people we're around are calm, because we find our hope and our settle point through others. When we can share our struggles openly, something about it dismantles the shame and we build collective strength. Connection offers us the chance to help reframe our experiences. There's a fine line between resilience and resistance, and this is where society pushes us more and more towards resistance. Resistance says, I will pretend this doesn't affect me. Think about all those sayings. Stiff upper lip, carry on, keep calm. That's resistance. Resilience says, I will learn from this. One leads to growth, the other to burnout. Because when we avoid the pain, we also avoid the opportunity to transform. When we acknowledge the pain, we gain the opportunity to rewrite the story. Real resistance isn't toxic stoicism, it's honesty. It admits this hurts, but also whispers, but I can still move forward. And this is what growth-based resilience is all about, moving forward. Because when we talk about resilience, we normally make it synonymous with recovery. We're asking the question, how do I get back to where I was? What if we ask the question instead, what do I want to become through this? What is this trying to teach me? Now, that's a subtle but powerful shift because growth based resilience acknowledges that life's challenges leave an imprint. It accepts that we may not return to who we were, and that's okay because we're becoming a newer version of ourselves. And on that other side, it often carries more depth, empathy, and perspective. This is resilient transformation. It's not just about returning to baseline, but evolving into a wiser, stronger version of ourselves. Resilience isn't something you're born with, it's something you build day by day, step by step. Here are some practical ways where you can strengthen your resilience in everyday life. First off, name it. You can't transform what you don't acknowledge. So name your stress, your pain, your fear. This isn't going to make you weak. It's going to make you real. When we name it, the next thing we're going to do is start to reframe it. Instead of always asking the question, why me? Why not ask the question, what can this teach me? That simple reframe shifts your brain from threat mode, from protection, and into growth mode and thriving. When we commit to this, we can feel like even though life is uncertain, we know what matters to us. We act on those values and our internal compass. This keeps us on a path of alignment even when the route through it is unclear. One of the biggest things I want you guys to start doing is celebrate growth, not perfection. Resilience isn't built instantly. It's choice by choice, piece by piece. Celebrate the growth. Don't wait for perfection. If I had waited to be perfect at this podcast, I never would have started. Every small act of courage shows us that we can learn, that we can be resilient, face criticism, face our fears, and then choose to overcome them. And this is where your happiness hack is going to come in for the week. Happiness and resilience is not about the absence of struggle. So, what I'm going to do is teach you one of the concepts of logotherapy. I want you to find the capacity to get meaning out of every struggle and then move through it. Because when we grow through hardship, we begin to extend our emotional range. We become capable of deeper joy because we've learned to sit with discomfort. It's choosing to believe that in uncertainty, you have the agency to find your purpose. Because resilience isn't about just coping, it's about becoming. When we stop trying to tough it out and start learning to grow, that's when we can really thrive. I want to tell you a little story here about when I was recording this podcast. Was sitting at the beach with my son. We were building a hole and we were starting to struggle because the waves kept coming in. Every time we dug a little deeper, a wave would come in, knock the sand back into the hole, fill it in, and wash away. He was getting more and more frustrated, but he was getting more and more determined. He was going to make this hole no matter what. We paused for a second, took a step back, literally moved up the beach 1 meter, and something amazing happened. Instead of knocking over our hole and filling it back in, what happened is the waves stopped reaching it. Instead of every single wave making it weaker, occasionally a wave would reach up, but most of them wouldn't. That's not the lesson here. The lesson was that the simple act of moving and reframing our position helped us in the long run. The really amazing thing with this, guys, was that when the waves started to not constantly wear over the top, they started to assist us. That one wave that made it through softened the ground we were digging. And when it washed out, drained back away, it extended our barrier. That's resilience. Using the lessons to grow, to extend, not fight against it. That when we stopped trying to resist it and started to use it to our advantage, that's when we became truly resistant. So, this is what I want you to do. Build that sort of resistance into your daily life. Every day, ground into your body. You know what I'm talking about, the 4-6 breathing. Inhale for 4, exhale for 6. Get up and walk around a little. Now go back and write down one sentence that you've been struggling with. Next, I want you to reframe it. Directly beneath that sentence, start with, "This challenge is showing me." Now go ahead and complete it. Because every time we do that, we're extending our ability to grow with resilience. Remember, gratitude is so important here. Every single day, at the end of the day, reflect on yourself. What did I do well today? What did I handle better than I would have a year ago? Because the more that we can do that, the more that we can find ways to be truly resilient. Remember, resilience isn't about bouncing back to where you were. It's about becoming more whole, more wise, more compassionate than you were before. When we reshape this to understand that growth is built through recovery and not resistance, we stop fearing challenges and we start using them. So what can you replace endurance with evolution with this week? That's my challenge for you. If this episode spoke to you, I'd love for you to subscribe to the Happiness Hack with Tim Coulson. Share it with someone who needs a little bit of encouragement. And if you're ready to explore real growth, why not book a session with me at timcoulson.com? That's TIM-COULSON.com. And as always, guys, remember, the day is what you make it.